hunt, 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 hunt.
Welcome to the Where to Hunt podcast, the podcast that connects public land hunting enthusiasts. I'm your host, Eric Clark. Today is August 4th, 2015, and I'm here to talk about what I really want to know today. I'm going to talk about river hunting or island hopping, canoe hunting, john boat hunting, something to that effect. It's something I haven't done that I've been considering for quite some time, and this year I'm actually going to make it happen. So I've started some scouting, and I've found a spot on a local river that I'm going to hunt. I have to go scout it still. I just picked it on a map, and I found my access points and that kind of stuff. So I'm getting pretty excited about it. And through this research, I had heard some people talking about, just through conversation, other stories online too, where, you know, if you shoot a deer in the river, it makes your life pretty easy. You know, it's moving slow. If you get a good shot on it, you know, depending on where you're positioned in the river, where you left your canoe, it just simply floats, and you can float it out. And I'm thinking, man, I hate dragging deer. It's a pain in the ass. So potential options. So then that led me to the question of, is it legal to do that? And on the Where to Hunt Facebook page, there's some conversations that I try to instigate around that to kind of flesh out what is permissible in Wisconsin, which is where I live. And some people said it's illegal, some people said it's not. So I asked the DNR, and in fact, I have the whole conversation here. So just to clear the air on that, I'm going to read that conversation. I said, I have a question to clarify if there are or are not any specific regulations regarding both shooting a deer while it is in the river and if you can shoot a deer from a canoe. The DNR rep responded, you have to be able to retrieve the deer if shot. So, sorry. You have to be able to retrieve the deer if shot. So in the water, if shot. So in the water it would be difficult, but no regulation besides safety issues shooting at the water. Also, the canoe could not be under motor power with a loaded gun bow or crossbow. I asked if there's a particular page or PDF or some information on the DNR's website, and the person or the rep had responded that it would be under the hunting regulations under arms transportation. So I said, okay, just to clarify, if the water is shallow enough, I'm fully able to retrieve the deer. I would be able to shoot the deer while it is actually in the river, as long as the canoe is not motorized. Shooting from it is also permissible. Correct. And the response was, as long as there are no local restrictions, you would be okay. And I responded, thanks for the help. And that's the conversation I had with the Wisconsin DNR. So I scoured their darn website. I looked at the regulations. I couldn't find anything that talked about this. It led me to start looking at what are the regulations for duck hunting. What can you do inside of a boat? So that's the answer that I have. So it seems, according to the DNR, in writing, it is okay to shoot a deer if it's in the water as long as it's retrievable. Furthermore, if you're in a paddle boat, canoe, kayak, john boat, you can shoot from it as long as it's not being propelled by a motor. So I don't know, man, that stuff's pretty fascinating. I'm pretty excited to have learned that. So it's going to kind of alter how I was intending on scouting, because maybe I see a buck on my way in, like I've heard so many people talk about when they're island hopping for big bucks. So to get a little bit deeper into the stuff, I haven't done it. So I'm only talking about the things that I've researched so far. So if anybody has any pointers in response to listening to this episode, it'd be really cool if you've experienced doing this and you have some good pointers from experience, because that's always the best. You know, I learn by doing things the wrong way or the hard way first, and that's always the best way to learn, or the worst, depending on how you look at it. So scouting's important. I'm talking with my pops, and he's like, you want to look for bends in the river, and I'm looking for tree lines and ways, spots that they would cross. I found, looking at Google Maps and Google Earth, and then if you look at Bing Maps, they have this bird eye view, which is kind of neat, where you can, depending on the angle you're looking at, you can actually even see the deer trails through there. So that was kind of helpful, but depending on the date that it was taken, it might not be really relevant. So still boots on the ground would be good. Your exit and entry points, or entry and exit points, are going to be really important. You're not going to want to load this thing into your canoe or john boat or kayak or whatever you're going to be using. If you're going to have to paddle upstream, that's going to be pretty difficult. So you're going to want to think that through as best as possible. If you can get a buddy to drop you off so you can float back downstream or something, to where your car or truck is, something to consider, something that I wouldn't have thought of because I'm Polish. I just do things the hard way all the time. I would just go into it and do what I need to do without thinking about that stuff. So I'm glad I came across that information. Seems obvious until, you see it. Then the other thing was actually I was considering using a canoe, and again I read someone's using a john boat because they're less tippy, and of course, again, seemingly super obvious, right? Like we all know that they're less tippy than a canoe, obviously. But I wouldn't have thought about it. I'm like, I have a canoe, let's do that. That'd be great. So I don't have a john boat, but if I could get my hands on one for cheap, that might be something to consider. It'd be a lot easier to deal with, I'm sure. And then the other thing, rivers are muddy, mucky. Just because you park or land the boat or whatever it is, it doesn't mean that there's usually a lot of swamp area around, cattails, marsh areas, bottoms, things like that. So wearing some knee highs or some really good rubber boots on the way in will probably be beneficial. Especially if you're into November for the gun hunt. What I'm more or less considering is September, so it shouldn't be as bad. But this is Wisconsin, so things can change. And obviously, the water temperature could be really, really cold in November. So a john boat, again, would be a much better consideration than a canoe, considering how tippy they are. And if you actually get a deer, you're going to have to, get that thing out of there. You're going to have to load it up. Could really create an unstable situation, maybe, if you get a big guy or something. So those are just the quick things I had to talk about today. I wanted to get on this mic and let everyone know that it is permissible to shoot a deer while it's in the river. If it's retrievable and you have a good clean shot. I mean, let's be ethical, right? I'm not going to shoot a deer if it's swimming. That's going to be ridiculous. I'm going to wait till it gets closer to land and I have a good clean shot. And then from there, as long as the boat isn't motorized, you can actually shoot from your canoe or john boat. No electric motors, no gas motors, nothing like that. And in fact, the regulations that I did see even talked about sailboats. Like your sailboat has to be furled. Your sail has to be furled. You can't have your sail full of wind. That's considered a propeller in that realm. So it's funny that it's in writing because it leads me to believe that someone had attempted to do this at some point in time. I just find that funny. So that's the information I have for you guys today. Obviously, if you can hunt this way, I believe that you're going to have a greater reward. It's going to be a little bit more work, but the by and large, more people are not doing it this way. There's obviously enough of us out there that will, that have the access, that have the means, that have the canoe or a john boat or whatever it is, a kayak. If you're that much of a badass, I don't know how the heck you're going to carry deer on a kayak. Maybe you get a second one and tow it. I'm not sure. Nonetheless, fewer people will be doing that than walking in, and you can likely get to some unique spots where there could be some nice trophies there for you if that's what you're into. If you're into putting meat in the freezer, it could be just as rewarding too if you get access to where the deer are running to from all the other hunters. So that's the show for today. Thanks for listening. Like to keep it short as usual. Tune back in. I'll be doing these shows every week, and the show will be posting at 4 p.m. on Thursdays. So stay tuned. If you have any ideas or things you want to comment on, feel free, please. I love the ideas, and maybe even have some of the fans on the show. Have a great day and hunt public.
Looking for a spot to hunt? Download the free Where to Hunt app for your smartphone today. Avoid hunters, see less people, see more deer. With the Where to Hunt app, you will know where other hunters are before you see them. Just search Where to Hunt from the App Store to download today.